Hey, I'm Mark from Philosopher Kings, where we teach young professionals how to think, speak, and act like it. Today we're going to talk about living and practicing our profession at the intersection of knowledge, wisdom, and virtue. In Plato's famous work, The Republic, he explains that his idea society, or utopia as he called it, would be ruled by philosopher kings rather than politicians or people that played political games. And for him, what set a philosopher king apart from a politician or a manipulative person was that they were full of wisdom, knowledge, and virtue. Wisdom, knowledge, and virtue. And so as a modern professional, I believe being full of wisdom, knowledge, and virtue can set you apart from your peers and let your patients and clients know they're in good hands at all times. So, a philosopher king, according to Plato, was someone who possessed this rare combination of qualities: wisdom, knowledge, and virtue. And for him, unlike most rulers who rise to power because of wealth or power or connection, the philosopher king ascends to power actually after years of education and rigorous training, making this the kind of person who is an ideal ruler for a utopian society. Plato writes that there will be no end to the troubles of states. Like, don't expect ever there to, not be a problem in a government or an institution or the way a big machine runs. He writes, humanity itself will have no end to troubles in their institutions until philosophers become kings in the world, and political power and philosophy thus comes into the same hands. And so, while Plato believed traditional rulers were not suited at all to run things, philosopher kings, on the other hand, were impervious to going after money, sex, and power instead of serving people well, and as a result could rule a society well. Now, as a modern professional, I want you to imagine that you have a kingdom. You have a miniature empire to rule, made up of the various people that you get to work with and serve alongside, and the clients and patients who entrust themselves to your care. It's a very important and at the same time delicate position of rulership that you find yourself in after all of your training. And let's talk about that. For Plato, what set apart the philosopher king was actually training, the time spent gaining the skill sets to be able to stand up and lead. Well, most of you that have been through professional college on top of your 4-year degree have gone through rigorous, intentional, devoted training, a season of trial, obstacle, blood, sweat, and tears. And as a result, you are fit to stand up and call yourself a doctor or a dentist or a physical therapist or a mental health care provider or counselor or an attorney at law. But at the same time, generally, professional training is long on one of the 3 qualifications Plato has for a philosopher king and short on the other 2. This is because of time, and this is because of a lot of other factors, but every professional college or dean of a school who's trying to plan out the educational rubric for young professionals coming up in Gen Z or the young millennial classes knows and knew they had a problem with inculcating wisdom and virtue. That is, giving students the practical decision-making skills and the personal morality or code of ethics or code of conduct that should come alongside the knowledge of your learning. You see, professional colleges are masterful at equipping students with knowledge, but sometimes very poor at giving you wisdom and virtue to go along with that knowledge. And the best rulers of a profession, well, they live at the intersection of these three. The combination of knowledge, wisdom, and virtue is what makes an extraordinary provider, an extraordinary person. And so Philosopher Kings sets out to essentially turn up the dial on these other two pieces that Plato says are essential. We try to turn up the dial on wisdom and turn up the dial on virtue so that you're sitting at an 8 or 9 in all three of these categories: knowledge, wisdom, and virtue. Because you're well trained, you know you are. You've worked for the knowledge that you hold, and this is the reason a patient or client will come to you for a diagnosis or for your opinion or for your advice. But with that knowledge, we need to grow in the interpersonal skills and the internal identity of a philosopher king. We need to turn up wisdom, turn up virtue to match our high threshold of knowledge. And that's what Philosopher Kings is all about. Stay tuned, and in the next few episodes, we're going to cover those things one at a time: knowledge, and then wisdom, and then virtue. Why each of these three things is an essential part of being a Philosopher King, aka an outstanding professional in the modern world, and some ways we can get there in our going. All right? It's an honor to grow together. I'm so glad you are here. Catch you real soon.